All right, we've got Force Gaming here saying Path of Exile 2 might be the best ARPG of all time. Let's see what he has to say.
You know, every time I see more gameplay for Path of Exile 2, I'm honestly blown away. Like, this game is looking so good.
I agree. Everything that I see, every time I see something new trailers, new gameplay, it always looks so good. I'm so impressed. They are way smaller than the Diablo 4 dev team, and yet they pull off way more. How is that possible? Diablo 4, you guys are slacking. Path of Exile 2 is looking really promising.
I almost can't believe it. Part of the reason I can't believe it is because Path of Exile is already doing very well. The game is consistently one of the most played on all of Steam and has only been growing in popularity since its release in 2013. In fact,
yeah, that's crazy. Holding 100,000 players on a game that has quite a few years under its belt, that's pretty impressive.
In fact, they just hit their all-time peak 3 weeks ago. The game is 11 years old, and after all that time, they are continuing to attract more players. That is
I think that's because of the recent expansion that was released, the Settlers of Kalgur or whatever. That expansion is pretty sick, though. I mean, that's understandable. You get to build up your own base randomly inside of an ARPG. That's not a normal thing that you get to do. It was just really cool to see. I guess because maybe of Lost Ark did that, but the Settlers one, it looks way cooler than the Lost Ark one, in my opinion.
Crazy. What's even crazier, though, is that with Path of Exile 2, it looks like they actually have the potential to reach an even larger audience thanks to all the improvements, updates, and the new stuff that's coming. I mean, it's...
Just look at that. Look at the color schemes that they added to those biomes, I guess you could say, or those areas. It just looks really cool. The ambiance, the feel of it, the vibe is really, really cool.
Sounds insane considering how well Path of Exile is still doing today. But yes, I do think there's a very good chance Path of Exile 2 will be even more popular and more successful. Now, part of this is thanks to a pretty major decision that they made just a few years ago, because initially Path of Exile 2 was planned to just be an update for the base game, but then they decided to spin it off into its own proper and full-blown sequel, and in that process they have improved just about everything, which we have seen on full display over the course of like this past year or so.
Yeah, I'm so glad that they decided to make it its own game. I really am. I really am. That's a good decision in my book. They didn't decide to pull a Blizzard with Overwatch 2. Yeah, just a massive update that is a new game, guys. It's a new game. No, yeah. This was a great decision in my opinion. They are really ramping up graphics and gameplay and just everything in this new game, I think. I'm really excited. I really am. Really excited.
I think probably one of the biggest, most immediate standouts are the improvements to the overall look of the game. Even with getting updates over the years, Path of Exile has been showing its age. It's not exactly the prettiest looking game, and although that ultimately doesn't matter, clearly with how popular it is, a visual touch-up I think is a nice and part of what will draw more people into the game, more fresh.
Yes, a fresh look to the game will definitely draw in more players, I think, as well. And, I mean, just for existing players, why wouldn't we like to look at a prettier game that still has the awesome gameplay? That's a win-win.
Fresh players. Because, yeah, the visuals in Path of Exile 2 just look so much better. Both the general graphics, things like the environment, the lighting, the effects, and character models, but also how much better the combat itself looks, particularly talking about things like attack and spell animations.
Dude. Oh, my goodness. I was talking just a bit ago, I was reacting to a different video and talking about how I typically like mage classes. Man, just watching those massive fireballs falling on the enemies grouped up like that is so cool. That is so cool.
Combat in Path of Exile has always felt a little lacking to me, just in terms of like the raw impact feel. I know that things get going late game once your build is firing on all cylinders and you're tearing through levels, screen clearing hordes of enemies. Like, I get it, there is satisfaction to be had there, but I'm just talking even like straight out the gate, smacking zombies with a stick on the beach or tossing out a fireball. There has always been a little...
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Path of Exile, the original, is, you know, I could definitely see that there's a little bit of an issue with things feeling impactful. I could agree with that. In general, some of the spells are really cool and have really cool sound effects and make you feel like, oh man, I am doing so much damage. This is awesome. You know, but there's others that are a little bit more lacking. Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's really important in a game like this to have really awesome sound design, really cool spell effects, and, well, you know, just ability effects in general. Yeah, I think that's really, really important because you're at this angle, you're not up close, you're not feeling very, very close to the combat like you are in like a third or first person game. So this type of game, I think it's even more important to have really cool VFX and sound effects. Yeah, so anyway, I agree.
A little bit of a lack of oomph and impact to Path of Exile every time that I've played it, and the devs clearly agree because they have addressed it, emphasizing on numerous occasions how much work they've done to improve the feel of gameplay.
Yeah.
This includes updating animations, sounds, and working to improve the input latency, three of the biggest factors in how any game feels to play, along with...
Yeah, that's one of the things that I've noticed in all of the gameplay and trailers that I've seen for this Path of Exile 2, the new game. It really seems like they have worked on that impact, that feel. I haven't played it myself, obviously, so I don't know for sure, compared to, like he's saying, the input latency and then the feel of impact and things. So there's definitely a combination there that I'm missing because I'm not pressing the buttons myself, but just watching the animations versus the sound effects versus everything that I'm seeing on screen and how it impacts the enemy, things look really impactful. They look really good. It looks like they've definitely learn from things that they were lacking in Path of Exile 1, or, the first one, and they've improved on that dramatically in Path of Exile 2.
With adding more mobility to the game, nearly every single melee and many range skills now have some built-in movement to them. Attack direction can be adjusted post-activating skills, letting you track moving targets mid-animation, and they've added a
Yeah, that's exciting for me too. Really. It's really exciting for me too to have more mobility. It feels good. It just feels good to be able to zip around a little bit more. That's definitely one of my complaints with the original Path of Exile as well, that not every class has some sort of mobility to them, So this is really nice.
base level dodge for every single character in the game. All of this extra movement really opens up a lot of options for encounter design, where in Path of Exile 1, you either had to take up a slot for a dedicated movement skill, or just walk out of the way of an enemy attack. Now, because there is so much more additional movement built into abilities on top of a universal dodge roll, they can design boss fights and encounters.
This boss fight looks so cool. Oh, I want to play this boss fight. I want to be here. I want to be doing it. I want to be pressing these buttons.
With all of that extra movement in mind. They've also mentioned just trying to slow down the pacing of combat a little bit, at least in the early and mid game. Like, sure, once it comes late game, you're going to be probably seeing that zoom fest that you're used to watching Path of Exile 1 end game stuff today. But at least to start, looks like they're trying to rein in that pacing just a little bit. So yeah, I mean, across the board, this game just looks significantly better, from those base visuals to the look and feel of gameplay. And I'm really glad that they made that decision to pivot from Path of Exile 1, just getting an update, to making a full-blown sequel, because
Agreed. Again, I'll say it again. I'm so happy to. Yeah. They didn't decide to pull a Blizzard with Overwatch. Yeah, exactly. I'm so glad that they decided to make it its own thing and to really invest a lot into making it better, bigger and better. And I think so far, of course, we've only seen gameplay and trailers, so of course, I haven't played it. I don't know for sure, but so far, it looks like they have executed on that. It looks like they have made it bigger and better, flashier, cooler, even more fun, hopefully.
Taking that extra time to make these improvements, I think was a good move. Like, when they first revealed Path of Exile 2 in 2019, yeah, it looked like an upgrade to the game, but it didn't look that much better.
Yeah.
But they have come a very long way since in those 5 years, and PoE 2, yeah, it looks significantly better across the board. The general visuals, the animations, the gameplay, the environment, the lighting, everything looks better. And like I said, I think that's gonna draw more people into the game. To what's
Yes, so any of you Diablo 4 players out there who have been looking for an ARPG that doesn't put you to sleep after about a week of gameplay and have things get so repetitive and boring that you could not imagine putting in another week or two of gameplay into it, this might be the game for you.
It's already a wildly successful game. But beyond how the game looks, another major standout is the amount of depth and interactions in the gameplay. Now, those familiar with Path of Exile, you're going to be no stranger to this, but there's just a lot of cool stuff. It's like every time I've watched a new class walkthrough that they've showcased, there's some like systems and mechanics that have me going like, holy crap, that looks so dope. So let's talk about some of them. So take the Witch, for example. This is the curse dealing and necromancy minion summoning class who can summon in a horde of armies. But there's just like a ton of cool interactions beyond just like, okay, you're summoning up a couple of different minion types and you have like one ability that they can do, right? Beyond doing just basic attacking.
Right.
There's so much more. So for starters, using the spirit resource, which
it felt like he was talking about Diablo 4 there. That's what it felt like. You have your summons and they do one thing, and that's about it. No, yeah, these minions are crazy. They're so much more in depth than the Diablo 4 minions. It's going to be so cool to see what you can do with them.
Which is a new additional resource in Path of Exile 2. You're able, with the Witch, to allocate the exact type and number of each minion you want, picking your own preferred composition for your minion party. There are going to be a lot of options to choose from. We've seen warriors, storm mages, clerics, reavers, snipers, arsonists, and there will be more. So each one of those will use a certain amount of spirit, and then from your max spirit pool, you will pick and choose that composition of how many of each of these you want. You could go full warrior with some clerics, mix in some reavers and snipers, whatever combo you want. It's totally up to you. Really.
That's so cool. That versatility. That's what we need. That's what we want. We want to be able to customize down to the number of minions of each type and what they can do. That is so cool.
Cool there. You can command them to do a lot of stuff, like yes, you can say, hey, go attack that enemy, but you can also tell your army to move to a particular location. You can even have them open doors and chests. Then beyond doing basic attacks, many minions will have a command skill, which is like an active ability.
That's so cool that you can have them open doors for you and stuff, because imagine there's like map traps, you know, something like that. Maybe the door has an explosive on it when it opens, something like that. You know, you never know, right? It's a new game. They could be trying some different stuff like that. And the minion goes and opens the door for you. They take the damage. You're totally fine. And maybe that's when a mini boss or maybe even a full-on boss charges out or something. So you would have been, you know, a quarter health down or maybe even half health down if it was a big enough explosion or whatever, or maybe it's poison or something. And so now you're totally fine. You go into this boss fight with a big advantage because you're supposed to be like way damaged when you start it. I think that's cool. I think that's really cool to have that versatility.
So the sniper skeletons can call down poison clouds, arsonists can detonate any low health minions, and the reavers can be enraged to deal increased damage.
Yes.
There's also temporary minions. They showed things like this spell called Unearth, which creates these scorpion-like bone constructs, along with the summon zombies ability, where you can just summon up a zombie from any dead corpse. Now, any of these temporary minions will then also be enhanced by debuffs that you place on the corpses prior to them dying. So say, for example, you poison an enemy, it dies. If you summon a zombie from that corpse, it's going to result in a poison-imbued zombie. And as if that wasn't enough...
Yeah, as if that wasn't enough. Could it be even greater? Oh, yes. Yes, it can.
This is the coolest thing. You can capture any slain enemy in the game and then summon them as your own permanent minion. I think...
Even elites, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it's not just base, like, enemies. Like, you can even do it to, like, elites, like bigger monsters. It's crazy.
Beyond like act bosses and stuff, the regular enemies and the elite enemies can be captured and summoned as permanent minions for your army. How about the ranger though? So for the ranger, it's like a bow class. They said the aim is agility, the dream being like a fast bow gameplay, Legolas style. And with that,
which is cool. Yeah, the mobility of it, that is cool. You don't feel so slow and sluggish and like you can't get away, you can't move, you can't do anything. I love that. I love that it's such a mobile class.
You're going to want characters to be able to move while using most every attack with just getting a slight speed penalty while you're attacking. But beyond a few exceptions, they really don't want you rooted in place pretty much ever. So beyond moving while attacking, there's also a variety of move skills, like they showed Frost Escape, where you jump back, shoot a frost arrow on the ground.
That just reminded me of Ashes of Creation a little bit, because there's it's like a flip aerial shooting snares on the ground ability for the archer in Ashes of Creation. It just reminded me of that, but with ice, which is really cool too. I mean, there's different ways that you could play on that, you know, trapping or slowing enemies below you as you flip and shoot. It just reminded me of Ashes of Creation, that's all, but in a good way. I think this is sick.
That can then freeze enemies, and you can follow it up with a heavy hitting attack. The ranger's got a bunch of different arrow types, like poison burst arrows, arc lightning arrows, freezing, and fire. Some examples of different abilities include snipe, the skill shot with a precise window timing, so you can use this to follow up on any CC'd enemies, like ones that are frozen or stunned. And if you properly time this, you're gonna get a guaranteed critical strike and a small AoE.
That's sick, right? All those details, all the details add up, right? Time it just right, you get the critical strike. That's so cool.
These lightning rod attacks where you can shoot rods into the sky, they rain down, sticking to the ground, and then this creates this bouncing, arcing lightning. You can stack these for more and more damage. Or they got ability with poisons, like being able to put down poison plants and summon poison clouds, and then all this...
Just imagine a field of lightning rods everywhere and all the enemies trying to swarm you are just getting shocked, stopped in their tracks every second or so. That is going to be so fun.
Poison can be combusted with any of your fire skills. There's just a lot of really interesting interactions with pretty much all of the classes in this game.
Yeah.
Rangers even have their own pet that is also a mount. So while you're not mounted, it's just going to attack like a minion, but then you can mount on it, getting that increased movement speed and shoot from its back using your abilities with no penalties.
Yes.
Pretty neat. How about the Mercenary? This is really cool looking. It's basically like an ARPG version of a Call of Duty character. They said they've really fully embraced trying to make it feel like it was pulled directly from a shooter, and I
don't think I've seen the Mercenary showcase. This is sick. Yeah, that's a great way to say it. It seems like you're playing Call of Duty, but in an ARPG. This is really cool.
I think the addition of WASD movement beyond click to move definitely makes this playstyle work way better.
Yes.
So mercenaries use variations of crossbows that basically represent different types of guns like snipers, shotguns, and assault rifles. Depending on the crossbow and the ability that you're using, you can equip 2 of these at any time, depending on what playstyle you're going for. Now, beyond these different crossbows representing different types of
That looks so fun. I might play the Mercenary. That looks really fun.
like shooting weapons, there are different ammo types which further enhance things. There's armor piercing for AoE, incendiary for damage over time, and permafrost to chill and freeze enemies. Crossbows have attachments, which are effectively like extra skills that can be augmented by support gems. These attachments can fire a variety of grenades, from basic damage dealing explosive ones.
This is the thing with Path of Exile, man. The customization levels are just off the charts. Like Diablo 4, man, I know that there's a reason that Diablo 4 exists. It's trying to appeal to more of a general audience or a less hardcore audience. And maybe that's why nobody's playing it. Just saying, because, man, this is so cool. The customization levels, I love having that level of control over everything. It's so cool that you can tweak it just right. Like, oh, I want to do a little bit of AoE, but it also slows, and then it also like lights on fire or something crazy, you know? Like that's awesome.
To flash grenades that stun, or oil grenades that slow and can also be ignited. And then depending on the ammo you have equipped, your skills are going to do different things. So for example, the armor piercing rapid shot will fire a quick succession of bolts, dealing a lot of damage and chipping away enemy armor. However,
Nice.
if you use rapid shot with the permafrost ammo, it's going to then also leave a trail of ice crystals on the ground, which explode when enemies walk over them.
This is what I'm talking about. The customization is off the charts. It's so awesome.
Use the rapid shot with incendiary ammo, it works sort of like an LMG. The attack will ramp up. The longer you hold it, the more damage it does. And also, while it's heated up, it makes it so that your grenades, when you launch them, they deal extra fire damage. It's just so much variety. Or how about the power shot crossbow, a different crossbow type that sort of represents the sniper archetype. If you use this with a incendiary ammo, it basically turns it into a rocket launcher. And those rocket launcher shots you can use to like instantly activate nearby grenades. You can use frost ammo with the power shot crossbow, which creates an ice barrier on the ground. There's just, again, so many different interactions and crossbows with.
It's kind of like you picking a class, but then you kind of have like subclasses, right? Based on your build. So your build kind of designates what kind of subclass you could be. You could be a grenadier, you could be a sniper, you could be just a straight up like assault class with an LMG. It's nuts.
This class, when you're talking about the crossbow type, the attack that you're using, and then the ammo type, I'm just really actually super interested to see like what mercenary endgame builds look like, because already it seems like there's so many layers to all of this.
Yeah.
Speaking of layers, how about the druid? So the druid transforms in the human form. You're a caster that controls.
This is the one that I remember very clearly. One of the first ones, or maybe it was the first one that came out that was showcased. But yeah, this is the one that I remember super clearly.
Controls the elements, but then you can also turn into several different wild beasts. So far, they have showed off bear form. Now, you're automatically going to transform when using any human or shape-shifting skills. So if you use Maul, for example, you will turn into a bear and start smacking away on your hind legs. But then if you cast Lightning Storm, it's going to turn you back into a human, so on and so on.
So this is the differences. These are the key differences between Diablo 4 and Path of Exile, right? Even just in the animations and the effects, right? In Diablo 4, sure, you turn into a bear. Sure, you can slap lightning around and stuff, and tornadoes and stuff like that. You can slam the ground and it does like a earthquake thing. But the animations on the bear, it's like lit up, it's glowing. There's weird little pulsating effects on it. It looks so much cooler. It looks so much cooler. The attention to detail by this team is just insane.
In the bear form, you got this mechanic called rage. Like Maul will build your rage. The more rage you have, the more damage you deal. There's even a visual indicator for how full this is, with the runes growing in intensity on your back the more rage you have.
Yes.
There are certain skills like rampage that will consume your rage. This has you charging forward, mowing everything down in your path, slamming your paws on the ground. The more rage you have, not only does it deal more damage, but it lasts longer, letting you travel further. Then there's other abilities and interactions with the bear, like you've got Furious Slam, where you create the slam on the ground.
I remember a showcase. I don't know if it was the same one or maybe like a different video or something, but I remember there being like a slam build that they were describing where you could just spam that slam over and over. Stuff like that. Just so cool, the things that you can do.
Does like an earthquake that can stun enemies. You can dodge out of various transformations and attack animations. You got Seismic Cry, which pushes enemies back and has a chance to stun them. And then heavily stunned enemies near any War Cry that you do cause the next slam to cast twice. And then this can be used in conjunction with other skills. Like you got this volcano. You can place a volcano on the ground. It shoots out projectiles. The longer you hold it, it erupts for more projectiles.
I forgot about the volcano. Yeah, I think that was part of the slam build too, if I remember right. The volcano plays off the slam or vice versa. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, that's really cool.
Dials deal more damage, but then when you slam next to a volcano, that like disruption in the ground causes more projectiles to spew out, and then you can combine that with everything, all the aforementioned stuff to like double slam and then charge slam as you're roaring forward. That's just, dude, the levels and layers of interactions. It's so dope.
It's mind-boggling. Yeah, they really thought like to the nth degree about how all these spells and effects and everything could interact and level up and just like play off of each other. They're geniuses, in my opinion. It really, of ARPGs, the Path of Exile team might actually be geniuses.
Seriously. And that is just some of the cool stuff that we've seen from the classes when they've done these gameplay walkthroughs thus far. There's almost certainly more coming, as the game will be launching with 12 different playable base classes. And then each of those base classes have 3 ascendancies for a total of 36 different subclasses to choose from. Now, in terms of the list of planned content and
36 subclasses? Good grief. That is nuts. That is absolutely nuts in the best way. We want our subclasses, we want our options, we want our customizations, we want to be able to build the coolest class ever and show it off to our friends and show how awesome it can be. Yeah, this is awesome.
Features, well, that too is pretty impressive. There's going to be 6 acts to play through in the campaign. Within each act are a bunch of segmented areas, and then every one of those areas contains a boss fight in some capacity. The result of this is over 100 unique bosses in the game, each with
pretty significant. 100 unique bosses. There's a lot of content here. We're going to have a lot to play through, guys. This is going to be awesome.
Their own mechanics and attack patterns, but also they're going to look different because the developer has emphasized that these bosses will not just be upscaled versions of normal or elite enemies. Shots fired.
Oh, Diablo 4. Come on. Come on. Come on. You know, they're just a little dev group. Come on, guys. Path of Exile 2. Don't make fun of Diablo 4. They're just a very small developer, you know? They don't know what they're doing. You know, you don't need to give them such a hard time.
The fights that they've showcased, I gotta say, they look really interesting. Like the literal look of these bosses. It's just like the right amount of unsettling. Just some really creepy boss design. Also the sounds of, like, if you just listen and watch some of these boss fights, it's just really creepy stuff, but very, very cool. Real impressive world and environment that they've built here. And yes, some interesting mechanics as well. Bosses going through different phases, doing different ground attacks for you to avoid, all that stuff.
Wait. So they don't just do like 3 things and then that's it on repeat? You're saying that they actually have phases and different abilities and different attack patterns and stuff like that? What? That sounds like a lot of work. I can't believe they did so much work. Oh man, they're just really showing up all of the other ARPG developers right now.
Stuff, right? Also keep in mind that this is all pre-end game stuff. So you got the 100 unique bosses as you're playing through the 6-act campaign. And then for end game, well, the expectation right now is that much of the same activities that are in the base Path of Exile will be coming over to the sequel. We're talking maps, which is kind of like the base way to play end game. Your goal is to kill monsters in a zone and then get a boss at the end. Then there is the bossing, where you're killing difficult end game bosses to earn these extremely powerful unique items. There's heist, where you're trying to steal these rare artifacts that help you in the rogue companions. There's the labyrinth, which is a dungeon filled with traps that enables you to farm stronger enchantments for your item.
This sounds so cool, man. There's so much to do. There's so much to do. You don't just finish the campaign and then have nothing to do. You're gonna be kept busy. That's so nice.
There's Delving, this infinitely generated endgame dungeon that gets progressively harder with increasing rewards. There's Simulacrum, these 30 wave encounters with monsters and bosses to kill. There's the Uber Blight. I mean, there's a reason that base Path of Exile has been growing over the course of its lifetime and reached its peak concurrent player count just a few weeks ago.
They just keep adding content. It keeps getting better and better. Like the new expansion recently, you know, something completely new. And yeah, they just keep feeding their audience, feeding their player base, and the player base is eating it up.
Even though it's over a decade old. Some other improvements that are looking to come in Path of Exile 2 include an updated skill system with 240 active skill gems, and realize that these are basically just your active abilities. So there's 240 skill gem abilities in the game, and
that's crazy. Think about that. 240? Holy cow. How many abilities do you think there are in Diablo 4? Just off the top of my head, I'm gonna say like maybe 16 per class, and then so what is that? There's 5 classes. I'm guessing like maybe 70 abilities for Diablo 4. That's my guess, just off the top of my head. I don't know. I could be totally off. I could be way off, but that's my guess right now.
And in addition to that, 200 support gems that further modify the behavior of those abilities. They're making it so that projectiles are affected by gravity. They'll be losing vertical height the further they travel, reducing off-screening.
They have bullet drop. They thought to add bullet drop in this game. That's... the level of detail is just insane. I keep saying it. It's just insane.
From projectiles, that's an interesting change. In terms of like the bullet point highlights of features, like if the back of the box stuff, if boxes were still a thing for buying games, they mentioned 100 distinct environments, over 600 monsters, like I said, 100 plus bosses, 1,500 passive skills, those 240 active skills that I mentioned, 700 different equipment types. The game's gonna have 6-person co-op. They're gonna do cross-play between PC and the console versions, and they will have...
I feel like I'm drooling. I feel like I was just staring at this and just drooling, man. This is nuts. The Path of Exile 2 is going to be awesome. There's just, yeah. I completely agree. The purpose of your video is very apparent and very agreeable, Mr. Force Gaming. This, yes, Path of Exile 2 is going to be absolutely awesome.
Of full WASD and console support. Now, as mentioned, Path of Exile 2 is a full-blown sequel now, but that doesn't mean that they're leaving PoE in the dust. They've said that both games will be updated with separate content mechanics balancing in leagues, i.e. their seasons, on an alternating schedule. So the plan here is to have less downtime between leagues, as you can bounce between the two games if you want. So for example, if you play through a season in Path of Exile 1, you progress to the point where you run out of stuff to do, or you just complete your personal objectives, it should probably be then the time to hop into PoE 2 and then play through its recently released League, and that's
impressive. That's honestly impressive that they're not even just going to let the game die. They want to keep maintaining it and growing it. And maybe that's probably a good thing too, right? Anybody who hops on to try PoE 1, then they fall in love with it and they'll try PoE 2 and dump money into it. So yeah, I mean, it's probably a good play. Yeah.
It's just going to kind of alternate between those two games. And while they are separating out the content of these two games, they are sharing the paid unlocks. This is huge. Any purchase that you make from the cash shop in either game works for both versions of the game. So
wow, that's pretty significant. It's surprising. It's not super money grubbing like I would expect from other devs. So yeah, that is significant.
This means any cosmetics you buy in PoE 1 carry over to PoE 2.
That's
but
cool.
More importantly, those big convenience purchases will as well. So if you buy stash tabs in Path of Exile, those will also carry over into PoE 2.
Yeah, nobody else would do that. No other devs would do that. No other ARPG devs would do that, I don't think. At all. I mean, Diablo didn't do it, right? You didn't get your stash tabs that you may have bought from Diablo 3 into Diablo 4, right? This is crazy.
Massive W there.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Frankly, I'm just pumped for this game to come out. That's why I made this video. It just looks so good on so many levels.
Yeah.
Even recent leagues from Path of Exile 1 have been enticing. Like the latest league practically has as much new content as Diablo 4's upcoming paid expansion. Like I said earlier, Path of Exile is doing incredibly well right now.
Yeah.
It is consistently one of the most played games on Steam and has been growing in popularity since it launched 11 years ago. I know I've said that a couple of times. It's for a reason, because that is bananas. This is really, really amazing stuff. Love to see it. And Path of Exile 2 looks to just be taking everything that made the base game, base Path of Exile successful, then enhancing it and adding more on top of it. Hats off to the studio. They're clearly doing a lot right here. Cannot.
Yep, I agree completely. Thank you, Force Gaming, for such a great video. That was awesome. Just kind of a summary of how epic Path of Exile 2 looks and is probably going to be. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, you see it. You see it in the gameplay. You see it in those videos. You see it in the trailers. I mean, it's impactful. It's exciting. It's called an action RPG. The action looks good. If the gameplay, the combat, the action looks good, it's probably going to be really good. And we have the predecessor to look at as an example. That was fun. Huge player base, constantly growing player base, and then they're making Path of Exile 2 seemingly to look even better, even more fun, even more action-packed with better graphics and better effects and tons of abilities and just everything. It's going to be awesome. I'm definitely hyped for Path of Exile 2. Definitely. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.